Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to the review of the shot Kal Dalet, which is now an Israeli modification of a British tank. Hence it is a premium tank for the British at rank 5 at battle rating 8.3. Now this is a highly interesting tank to look at all the various details and also to have a kind of verdict at the end about the greater pictures. And I'm not quite sure where this will lead to, because I'm not happy with many of the decisions that we kind of recently saw with the addition of some premium tanks throughout the last weeks and months and patches. So I think the shot Kal Dalet just shows how big the discrepancy can be in the value of a premium tank, especially when we look at the M60A1 DC Ariete from the Italians that I presented you a few days ago. So let's jump right into it and let's have a look at this Dalek tank. Yeah, there is a Doctor Who reference. I like the look of the tank. It has many machine guns. It has a lot of stuff being added, a battering ram, side skirts, smoke launchers, a single smoke launcher, era plates. The gun looks cool, but how it actually stacks up to its competition, the M60A1 DC Ariete, the Chieftain Mark III, and then also a lot of the other premium tanks at this battle rating bracket shall now be explained. As usual, I want to begin with the armor, and we can see it is more or less a standard Centurion tank, lower glacis and upper glacis at various different angles, angled backwards, but the plate is only 76.2mm thick. Russian 100mm guns with standard ammunition have not a lot of issue punching right through. The battering ram might be visually impressive, but it's only 50mm. 20mm the road wheel. We have some additional 5mm plating, but it's not really great against solid shot penetrators. APHE, APHE-BC, AP-CBC rounds, solid shots, and also APDS, APFSDS will punch right through. HeatFS and Hash will be stopped by the Blazer era protection, and they have an effective thickness of 260mm versus chemical energy based weaponry such as heat shells, and together with the remaining thickness of here the plates, it can stop L7 HeatFS and also occasionally an ATGM. However, it's a one-trick pony, so be careful with this. The side of the hull is, well, there is a lot of stuff. There are some side skirts, there are the road wheels, there are the tracks, there is the suspension, as you can see. There are some external boxes, so very good against hash rounds. But then the protection against heat is only here, just under the turret. And if you take that all away, it's just a big fat 50mm plate. Bit of angling, bit more, but don't worry, it will not save you. The rear 20 and 38mm, and then we come to the engine deck, and that is really weak. Look, we only have 14mm, okay, here, and then here on many big portions only 5mm. So aircraft, even with 50 cals, can penetrate here with ease, take out your transmission, the engine, set you on fire multiple times, and despite your 4 machine guns, that will not save you. The turret rooftop is better, 29mm. The turret all around is 89mm, so that's not bad. And then we come to the front, and there we can see that we have also obviously some era protection here on the rooftop, the side, smoke launchers. So this might catch occasionally a HeatFS round or an ATGM, and you can absorb some really nasty stuff, but just one time and one time only per battle. The X-ray, was a bit too fast. The gun mantle is relatively thin, so only 100mm here, and just around it is a bit of overlay with the gun mantle frame and also the gun mantle frame holding places. The turret front itself is also 89mm. The rooftop is heavily angled, 50.8, but it's not really that impressive. Also in a hull down location, even if you use the 10 degrees of gun depression, the cupola is not unseen. So there is this. Maybe use a bush or two, but it will not really help you. Don't get shot in this tank, but at least it is better than nothing. So, and finally we come to here this machine gun port, and that is also one of those locations where you can pull off those miracle non-penetration bounces. there is this. That brings us now to the X-ray, and we can see that the tank is full of ammunition. The 72 rounds are stored literally everywhere. This frontal ammo rack curiously gets emptied first, so I would take out the 25 rounds there. 72 rounds in total. I think for a normal battle you are better off with only taking 20 to maximum 30 rounds, and even then this ready rack here is always there, so that's a bit of a problem. The driver, the gunner and the commander have no further protection from the front by the transmission or the engine because they are in the back of the tank, and so if you just shoot here on the left hand side you can take out the tank with one shot, even from an APDS round or APFSDS or solid round, because 3 of the 4 crew members are stored here. The gun breach is relatively small, but still it gets damaged often, but not extremely often. So I think that is now the intro and the review. Let's talk about the mobility. And it is a mixed bag. While being substantially better than the remaining British main battle tanks, the Chieftain Mark III here in this comparison, but also the Centurion Mark X, you have a stronger horsepower to ton ratio and a stronger engine, but you're still a very heavy tank. You're the heaviest tank in this comparison with not the strongest engine, and that results in just under 14 horsepower per ton. That is nearly 2 horsepower per ton better than a Chieftain Mark III, and you definitely feel that in maneuvering, in working ridge lines, and in just overall cross-land speed. But you are nothing compared to your opposition. However, one exception, and that is the M60A1 DC Ariete, which for some reason always felt really a bit tired, a bit exhausting. And the top speed is actually the same, again better than the remaining British tanks, 35 here for the Centurion Mark X and 41 for the Chieftain Mark III, but against the other tanks, even going downhill, you're not looking that good. So in the long run, you can actually extend from your British team, but you barely can keep up with the other nations, especially in reaching certain positions, sniper positions, hull down locations, you name it. You are better than the average British tank, and then not so good than the other teams. So other light tanks in particular have no problem intercepting you, shooting you in the side before you can reach a safe destination. The reverse gear is kind of average, minus 11 kilometers per hour, again better than the Chieftain Mark III, but again nothing spectacular. And obviously the standard neutral steering. Let's now talk about the firepower, the business end of the tank, namely the gun. And we have a standard caliber of 105mm. This is called the Sharir gun. 72 rounds, as I mentioned. Just take many out of the tank. You can deal with one battle with 20 rounds or 30 rounds. The reload, again, very good. Standard 6.7 seconds, like the M60, the Leopard A1A1 and also the Type 74. Turret rotation on the other hand is only beating here the T55AM, and you kind of get overall this heavy tank feeling. However, the gun depression and gun elevation are good to excellent, together with the elevation speed if you're outside of the range of the stabilizer. Overall, a very good performance. Now let's talk about the ammunition, and this is where it gets crazy. Because the M111 APFSDS round is your stock round. And if you look here at the values, 1455 meters per second mass velocity, 385 millimeters of raw penetration power, and at 60 degrees we have 200 millimeters. Yes, this is the very same APFSDS round that got added to the Leopard A1A1's L7A3 gun, and where it initially had then a battle rating of 9.0 and is now at 8.7. I think this is a further power creep to the game, making armor even less relevant. And you know, it does great post-penetration damage effect, and on top of this, because it's a stock shell, it doesn't cost you anything to fire. Together with the 1.4 multiplier for the silver line gain, you make like triple the amount of money on an average solid game compared to the M60 DC Ariete, where the heat FS costs per shot 1,000 silver lines, and it's mostly the only shell that is worth being fired to reliably pen your opposition. So this shell is crazy good and effectively the only shell that you should ever use. Then, as a quote-unquote tier 1 upgrade, we have the M156 hash round, and that is just half the muzzle velocity. The penetration is more on the high explosive side, so you do, when you penetrate with it, great post-penetration damage effect, but it is nothing spectacular. Now, a lot of the British tankers think, well, hash and then APDS, that's kind of always where I just switch the ammunition between. But you also don't need this shell because it gets even crazier. Because as a tier 2 upgrade you get the M152 Heat FS round. The only British tank that actually has the Heat FS round is now the premium tank. So it is again your standard L7 heat round, 400mm of penetration, and again, because it is only a tier 2 upgrade, it costs you 420 silver lines compared to, as I mentioned before, the 1000 silver lines per shell from the M60 DC Ariete, because there it counts as a tier 4 upgrade. You can hull break vehicles with this, you can penetrate thick armor at long ranges, as long as it is not anything like Euro protected. The muzzle velocity is lower, but you still can decently aim with it. Overall, the scope on this tank is not the very best, but the accuracy is really good. So yeah, the only tank that has Heat FS as an option that it doesn't need, whereas the rest of the tech tree would love to have this shell in the first place. This is how good the APFSDS is actually. To finish it up, as a tier 4 upgrade, we have the M416 smoke shells, and it is your kind of standard smoke shell, but you actually don't need it because you have overall so much smoke on the tank that it is really not necessary to take any of this with you, at least for self-defense. However, if you want to smoke up enemy sniper positions, if you want to smoke up a friendly that is a bit further away, you can use some of them, and the smoke screen hold time is 25 seconds, so that gives you enough time, due to your really great reload of 6.7 seconds for an ace crew, to launch multiple smoke shells and then switch back to also a normal standard, probably APFSDS round. The last comparison spreadsheet is here the ammunition comparison between the aforementioned tanks, and we have no APHE. The hash is not really crazy great, but it is better than nothing. Then we have also no ATGM, and the Heat FS is your standard L7 heat, where there is nothing to complain about, but it gets massively beaten here by the Leopard A1A1 with the 120mm Rheinmetall L44 cannon that just punches even right through your Euro protection with 650mm of raw penetration. However, we can see that also the APFSDS is beaten by the Leopard A1A1 L44s, but you are at a little bit lower battle rating. You have the same rate of fire, and 385mm of penetration power is certainly nothing bad. The funny thing about this APFSDS though is that when we look at the steep angle of 60 degrees, the DM13 has technically less penetration, and you mostly face obviously tanks with angled armor and composite armor, and they're the positive normalization that this tank has with the APFSDS just deals better with it. So that is just again another plus point for this tank and for its APFSDS. In the following few minutes I want to further show you how to use the tank, the tactical advantages and the do's and don'ts of this tank, how to play it, the overall circumstances, the overall niche in which you will find yourself, and then we come to the verdict, although you can already imagine how this is going to sound like. So in all of my battles I never played against the Americans once, always with them, and that is great because you have the flanking support, you have the cast support even more than so with only the British, and that brings advantages, but recently since a few patches also disadvantages. Have a look at this one. Yeah, that is half my team in helicopters in AH-1Gs. They get farmed in the first few minutes by enemy BMP-2s or by SPAs or by in general flying incompetently. They have then no spawn points left, and then there is only half your team left before the battle actually begun, and yeah, you can imagine how this is going to work out for you. Rarely have I seen a competent helicopter player that doesn't play with without ATGMs from long range, and that is that is just frustrating. But other than this, the Americans support you with scouting from their light tanks, with fast flanking maneuvers, with CAS. And so it is not your job to take the flank. You can try it, but you're not the best at doing so. You're also not a tank that forces its way straight through the enemy team. You don't have the armor, and heat FS protection by the era plates is a one-trick pony. Where we are really, really good is at long-range sniping, at just dishing out the punishment. You can see here the great post-penetration damage effect from the heat FS. Again, do as I say and not as I do, because this gameplay now might be a little bit deceiving because how it plays out. This was a lucky match. This is what can happen if the enemy plays in your favor, if you come at the enemy one at a time, if you have support, if the enemy have someone else to shoot. I think the supporter role is great, and you are in the unique position to have an extremely strong stock shell that is for free, so you can fire just away. You don't have to worry about your hit ratio or anything like this. You still make a massive profit, and this is what is the tank all about. So in its final verdict, I think this tank brings too much to the battlefield. It has the best mobility of any sort of main battle tank from the British, from this battle rating, lower battle rating and higher battle rating included, with the exception of the Challenger, of course. But that again has then also some issues. It has a very, very strong gun, bringing even more power creep into the game at even lower battle rating, which I am absolutely against it. It is the only British tank that has, aside from the Challenger Mark III era protection, and it is also the only British tank that has so many machine guns, 50 cal 7.62s. Furthermore, the smoke launchers are awesome. You can see the batteries of smoke launchers in the beginning. Nice shot right there. So you have 2 times 10 launches, and then like a Tiger 2 you have 10 single launches or 8 single launches, I'm not quite sure, of single smoke shells. That is really great, so you can smoke yourself up quite often. You're the only British tank that has heat FS, and I think that sums up this tank. I'm highly against this method of just looking at the desires of a nation, what they need in their tech tree to make a good lineup, to be competitive, to stack up to the competition of enemy lineups, and then just implementing that desired tank as a premium. So in this case you have better mobility and firepower and all that I just mentioned. Another example would be, for example, the RU-251 for the Germans, because they have no light tank, they have nothing at this battle rating that can scout, and also has a very punchy gun in terms of heat FS. So this is again a business practice that I absolutely despise. The next thing is, this tank is just so much better than the Italian M60 A1 DC Ariete. Not only has it a 40% lower silver line earning modifier, but also a single heat FS shot costs 1,000 silver lines. On this tank, because it's a different upgrade, it only costs 420, and your actual main shell that you will use is the free APFSDS, which is a tier 4 upgrade on the German Leopard A1A1. This is a little bit too much for my taste. Obviously, if you buy this tank, I think you have a serious player at hand. You have a tank that can do the job. It can just kill the enemies. It can sometimes take a little bit of punishment, and it will make you a good profit in terms of research and also silver lines. In this respect, there is nothing bad about this tank, but what this tank means for the game is that it is not good for the game. So let me know in the comment section. I know what I think about this tank. It's an awesome tank. It's a great tank. It is worth the money. But if you just want to invest money into War Thunder anyway, but the way Gaijin does this, giving one tank all the advantages and little of the disadvantages at an even lower battle rating, and making this such a strong contrast to a same battle rating premium tank that they introduced at the same patch, or in the same patch, that doesn't have its turret armor fixed and does earn so much less silver lines, that's just not okay. And I'm very polite here because this is now a review, but my honest opinion is this is bullshit. This is bullshit. So there, I said it. Yeah, I think that's nearly the end of the game. Let's just watch the end here. And you might argue this is now kill stealing or spawn pushing, spawn camping, whatever you want to call it, but this SBA doesn't want to come out. He's hiding in his spawn, and I don't like this. We have all the objectives, we have won the battle on the field, and so I kill him obviously here with the Heat FS in terms of hull breaking. I switch immediately back to the APFSDS for the case that he respawns in a tank with hero protection, with other armor or something like this. It's just a natural instinct to use here APFSDS. And I just wait. The last plane crashes and I'm just waiting. So I think the tank gives me now the impression that all the modification tanks that are done by the Israeli are better than the Tech 3 tanks. The same goes here for the Maga 3. Especially now that the Maga 3, which is also funny, has era protection, rendering the M60A1 further less useful as it could be. So that was now the ace, and that's now the end of the game. Let's just have a quick look at the post-battle results. And I really cannot complain about the nearly 50,000 silver lines, since they are also pure profit, because I barely fired ammunition that cost anything. 10,000 vehicle research points, that was without a cap, that was only with 1 assist and 5 kills, so it can be even better. And there you can see that the tank is really worth it, but for the wrong moral reasons. Also, I just missed out on 2 score points for an epic score. That's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts on this, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.